Thanks for tuning in to a deep dive into Ilusion from Nicaragua. On a weekly basis, I release a brand new coffee to our customers at Blending Room, and this feature will show you how I've roasted the coffee. I will do a tasting to convey its flavour profile, and I'll give some suggestions as to how you could brew it at home. As with many coffees I purchased for Blending Room, this coffee was sourced by our long-term import partners, Falcon Speciality. There is a link to their website down below should you wish to read a little bit more about their company and their purchasing mechanisms and ethos. I've also used information from Falcon in the description down below so you can read a little bit more about the farm. So let's get my laptop open and get into the roast profiles. Before I show you the roast profile on screen, I'll describe to you a little bit about what thought processes were going through my head when I was designing the heat application. Now, I've been having some degree of success on the pyramid heat approach, so I knew I was going to do that. From samples, I understood that there was this lovely lemongrass characteristic, and like most coffees from Nicaragua, there was a beautiful acidity as well, malic, a little bit of red apple. So I really wanted to display those quite prominently. The idea was to try and roast this coffee hard and fast. So I wanted a roast that was not going to exceed 9.5 minutes, which to me is a quick roast. A quick roast is pretty difficult because you've got to make sure that you get enough energy into the beans to promote the chemistry through time. You do not want to underdevelop the coffee in the early phases of the roast profile, and importantly towards the end as well. I wanted to try and target an end temperature that was below 213 degrees Celsius, and I specifically wanted to reach an Agtron Gourmet color of in excess of 90 points, so in the extremely light range. So now you know that, I'll put the profile on screen. So focusing on the profile shape, we can see that there is nothing that should alert me to a malabsorption of heat through time. There's a nice curvature to the line, which to me in my mind shows an evenness of application of heat, something that I really like as a roaster. The rate of rise curve is an ever declining slope. This is something that I have employed for at least a decade. Again, I enjoy a nice even heat application through time. I use the analogy of coming to a stop in a car. There's not many of us that should drive to a stop point and slam on the brakes right at the very end. What most people get instructed to do is to feather your brakes as you come to a stop point. And I try to use that same mantra when it comes to roasting coffee. I like to build up speed and momentum, and then I like to taper that momentum and speed off as I come to my stop point. You could even say that it's a little bit of a style of mine as a roaster, and you'll either enjoy what I do or you don't. You can see this build in heat momentum and tapering by the heat application that I've used in this pyramid approach, whereby I would drop the coffee in at 240 degrees Celsius on the exhaust stack. I then allow Loring's 20 seconds or 25 second soak period before 60% gas, 70, 80, building throughout that roast cycle. And then when I get to somewhere close to 180 degrees, 185 degrees Celsius, I then start tapering that heat away to try and feather into a soft close towards the end. It's important to have enough momentum in the roast because you want the chemistries to keep rolling, but not too much that you overshoot your mark and you can't rein in and control that finish point, of which in this batch was 212.9 degrees Celsius. The total roast time was 9 minutes and 3 seconds with a development time, so that is from the marker point of first crack to the drop point, of 1 minute and 27 seconds, and a development time ratio of 16%. So let's get rid of the laptop and have a taste. Now, even though I've got the remnants of a cold given to me by my wonderful 3-year-old daughter, I'm first going to use my nose to take an aroma assessment of the coffee because it's an important part of the overall flavour experience. So let's have a sniff. It smells creamy. It also smells like there's a little bit of like roasted hazelnut in there, maybe a macadamia, and a smidge of a citrus note on the nose as well. So let's take that and have a taste. Right, the first thing that you note with this is a lovely citrus characteristic. It expresses in a mandarin, but that dissipates And then you get this red apple peel type of acidity. So there's a bit of citrus and a bit of malic in there too. The malic acidity is synonymous with coffees from Nicaragua, and this has that red apple peel quality, which is really quite delicious. The interesting thing about this coffee is coming in the next phase. I'll taste and tell you. So once you've moved the acidity bit out the side, in comes lemongrass. It's really quite peculiar and quite enjoyable at the same time. You must enjoy coffees that are fragrant in nature. This is a light and a medium body coffee at the same time. The lightness comes in the acidity in this lemongrass and that perfume character that lemongrass gives. But on the finish, you get a syrupy toffee characteristic. So it is a dichotomy of both light and syrupy at the same time, which adds a lovely textural play on your palate. It's really quite interesting, but at the same time a little divisive as well. If you're a person who specifically enjoys light body coffees, you're absolutely going to enjoy this. But at the same time, those people who like light-bodied coffees may not want the toffee characteristics that are coming in afterwards. And definitely if you like coffees with body, well, this isn't going to be for you, maybe. But it does have the toffee. I don't know, I'm a little bit confused with this. So in my state of confusion, I am going to confidently tell you that you should be drinking this as a filter coffee. And the reason being is that the dilution ratio of filter coffees and the fact that that filter paper holds back some of the fine particles in suspension will really allow you to expose the interesting lemongrass characteristic of this coffee. It will also allow the really lovely red apple skin and mandarin characteristics to come through. So where possible, brew this in an apparatus with a filter paper. Now, if you don't have filter apparatus at home, cafetiere would be my next bet. Why? Because you get those toffee characteristics on the back. And full immersion brews really promote texture embodied. Yes, they are a touch muddied. And yes, you might not get access to all of the top notes that this coffee will provide you, but you will experience that lovely toffee characteristic. Next, if you're a person who doesn't have filtration or cafetiere brewing at home, and you've only got an espresso machine or say a stovetop mocha pot, go dilute. Increase your dilution ratio. That will help mitigate some of the bright, pithy, red apple skin characteristics. It will also somewhat rein in that lemongrass fragrance and give you a toe into the toffee. This will be a challenging espresso, but you know, that's up to you whether you try it. Right, that's enough of me talking about Ilusion. I hope that you've enjoyed this presentation. Do let me know in the comments below if you want to see anything else in what I do. Do you want more about the roast profiles? Do you want me to talk a little bit more about the tasting? I don't know, put them in the comments below. Do tune back in next week when I'll be releasing another new coffee. It might be something from Peru, I don't know, I've not chosen yet. And until then, have a great week. Enjoy your coffee if you grab a bag. Cheers.